All right, so I have two articles for you today. And they're both revolves around Trump's tariffs. One, it mostly revolves around the stock market, but let's face it, the stock market is crashing because of Trump's tariffs. So the first one is how Trump changed his mind on tariffs, which I don't know if we know the exact reason why he changed his mind, but this actually does make sense. It does. This article does make a lot of sense. This is from NBC News. Trump and officials in his administration were fielding calls from worried allies, and his advisors presented him with worrying data about the bond markets. Liberation Day just gave way to Capitulation Day. President Donald Trump pulled back Wednesday on a series of harsh tariffs targeting friends and foes alike in an audacious bid to remake the global economic order. Why are we calling our allies still our allies? Trump has made it perfectly clear these are not our allies because he did not put tariffs on all the foes. He didn't put any tariffs on Russia. He didn't put any on North Korea. Of course, I wonder if he at least put the baseline tariffs on because let's face it, he had no problems putting baseline tariffs on uninhabited islands. So yeah, those are his friends. The people we used to call allies are no longer allies. All right, continuing on. Trump's early afternoon announcement followed a harrowing week in which Republican lawmakers and confidants privately warned him that the tariffs could wreck the economy. His own aides had quietly raised alarms about the financial markets before he suspended a tariff regime that he had unveiled with a flourish just 1 week earlier in a Rose Garden ceremony. It feels like it's been more than a week. The stock market rose immediately after the about face, ending days of losses that have forced older Americans who've been sinking their savings into 401ks to rethink their retirement plans. Ahead of Trump's announcement, some of his advisors had been in a near panic about the bond markets, according to a senior administration official. Interest rates on the 10-year Treasury bonds had been rising, contrary to what normally happens when stock prices fall and investors seek safety in treasuries. The unusual dynamic meant that at the same time the tariffs could push up prices, people would be paying more to buy homes or pay off credit card debt because of higher interest rates. Businesses looking to expand would pay more for new loans. Now, I just saw data that inflation was cooling off in March. If he is doing this, so interest rates would have gone down. If he just waited a minute instead of, being in absolute love with tariffs, maybe the Fed might have at some point lowered interest rates if inflation kept going down. But he didn't wait for that because he thinks that trade deficits mean unfair when that's not how things work. There are certain products that we do not make or cannot grow here for whatever reason. And same thing with other countries. Or in the case of Lesotho, which they put 50% tariffs on, they are a poor country. So they will be able to export goods, but they can't afford to buy American goods. So, of course, they're not going to be importing things. I mean, it is just. This is supposed to be an administration filled with businessmen, and they can't even figure that shit out. All right. Two of Trump's most senior advisors, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, presented a united front Wednesday urging him to suspend the tariffs in light of the bond market, the administration official said. In a social media post, Trump announced a 90-day pause that said he'll use to negotiate deals with dozens of countries that have expressed openness to revising trade terms that he contends exploit American businesses and workers. One exception is China. Trump upped the tariff on the country's biggest geopolitical rival to 125%, part of a tit-for-tat escalation in an evolving trade war. Now, with China, we actually have a trade surplus, not a trade deficit. So the fact that Trump is yowling about how it is so unfair that these countries have trade deficits with us without understanding why that is, he's also attacking countries with a trade surplus. So, I mean, he obviously has no idea what he's doing. But what do you expect from someone who's managed to bankrupt not one, not two, but 6 casinos? Seriously, how did anyone think that this guy is a good businessman, let alone a genius? All right. Trump reversed course 1 week after he appeared in the Rose Garden and unveiled his plan to bring jobs back to the United States, displaying a chart showing the new elevated tariffs that countries would face. Trump proclaimed, "My fellow Americans, this is Liberation Day." It proved short-lived. The other thing I wanted to mention is that if he truly, if this was truly all about tariffs and how unfairly we're being tariffed, which, again, he seems to think that we pay for the tariffs that they put on our products, which, no, that's not how this works. He claims that countries are wanting to deal. Okay, which countries? And why is it that we're hearing that nobody can get a hold of anyone at the White House? I mean, that basically screams that he just wants to bully people and that he's going to bully them and then pick and choose a day of his choosing of when he's going to actually talk to them. I mean, the guy is a mob boss. So, yeah. No, I'm pretty sure that maybe there are countries who are attempting to talk to him, but nobody knows what's going on. They can't get a hold of him. Nobody understands why he's doing what he's doing, because nobody thought that these were unfair deals. This is supposed to be fair for both countries, and nobody understands what's going on. So, markets plunged in anticipation of heightened trade wars, wiping out trillions of dollars in wealth. Democrats seized on the issue, looking to undercut a source of Trump's popular appeal, the view that he can be trusted to steer the nation's economy. And we're going to get to something a bit more insidious than just Trump wants to lower interest rates so billionaires who run businesses can save a few pennies on their deals. Because let's face it, in the big picture of how much they make, it probably is saving pennies. But that's all Trump cares about, is saving money for him and his cronies. He doesn't give a crap about anybody else. Donald Trump's market crash has vaporized a whopping $104,000 from the average retirement account. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, a Democrat from New York, said Wednesday on the Senate floor hours before Trump's reversal. Now, yesterday, when this article came out, yesterday the market rebounded a little bit, but today, I'm recording this on Thursday, today the markets were down again. So, yeah, I mean, first off, it was a 90-day pause. It's not like he said, you know what, I'm just not going to do tariffs on anyone but China. No, that's not what he said. So, the episode laid bare the rifts within Trump's team of senior advisors as the White House struggled to offer a clear, consistent argument about the duration of the tariffs. While Bessent seemed open to negotiations, Peter Navarro, a senior trade advisor, appeared to take a more hardline posture. Yes, we know about him and Musk feuding. There was one other thing I wanted to say about. Oh, yes, the EU was willing to do complete free trade, no tariffs on either side, and Trump didn't want that. If this was all about being treated unfairly because of tariffs, you'd think he'd take that deal. So, nobody knows what Trump wants. I don't think Trump knows what he wants, because I don't think Trump understands how anything works. Elon Musk, the billionaire Tesla CEO, who has been advising Trump on the government workforce, called Navarro dumber than a sack of bricks, while Navarro described Musk as someone who is merely a car assembler in many cases. I think that's being generous, actually. But the week-long drama also underscored the peril of a policy-making process that is often tied to the wishes and vagaries of one man, Trump. Asked about the dust-up between Musk and Navarro, Senator Lindsey Graham, a Republican from South Carolina, a golf partner of Trump, said, "I don't think it matters. The only one who matters is Trump." As if we didn't know that. Markets tend to favor predictability, as do business leaders deciding where to build new plants. When Trump sets a course, however, there are bound to be detours. Exactly. Trump says, okay, I want more factories to be built in the U.S., which is a great goal. You know, make more jobs for Americans, have more goods made in the U.S. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem is that in order for businesses to decide that they're going to build XYZ factory, is they need to know that the market is going to be there. It's going to be predictable. They know that the money they're putting in for XYZ factory won't double, triple, whatever to build in like 6 months, simply because we have a toddler in the White House, and I'm probably insulting toddlers, who on a whim will decide whether he's going to put tariffs on this country or that country, because again, tariffs are taxes on the American consumer. Businesses that import products get taxed. Now, maybe some of these corporations will swallow it, but depending on the business, they may not be able to afford it. Or they might be greedy fucks, and even if they can afford it, will pass it on anyway. So, if that's the case, obviously, businesses, if they want to build factories, want to know that the money they put into a factory today isn't going to suddenly exponentially go up tomorrow, and that all their hard work will be for naught, and they can't afford to keep that factory. So there is that. So they need to know that they need to have the stability to know that they are going to be able to do what, build a factory, which is what Trump wants. Okay, great. Then, of course, there is that muddy in between that nothing is solely, well, I shouldn't say nothing, but a lot is not solely, even if it says made in the USA, there might be things about that product that were not made in the USA. So that complicates things. So again, if we're going to put tariffs on, then take tariffs off, then put tariffs in, it's like doing the fucking hokey pokey. If businesses can't operate that way because they don't know what to expect. Businesses like to know what to expect. So when they decide on a number to build a new factory or buy so much inventory, they will feel confident that this is a good investment, that they can actually, that this will not break them. And if Trump can't decide whether to have tariffs or not and charge who knows how many % for whatever goods, businesses can't make decisions. How can they? Because tomorrow, whatever they decided could be completely blown up. So anyway, a friend of his spoke to him in recent days, said Trump gave no signs he was about to back down quickly on this stuff. Of course not, because again, he is very, what's the word? He is very, my brain decided to stop wording. He's very, I can't talk. He decides things on a whim. He doesn't plan things out. He doesn't say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. We're going to keep tariffs on for so long, or we're going to put tariffs on a country, then we're going to call that country and see what we can do for a deal. He doesn't have any of that because he doesn't have the fucking attention span. So, of course, if, you spoke to him even day before, he wouldn't be aware that he's going to do it because Trump isn't aware. He decides at the last minute that, because it takes that long for information to penetrate his pea brain. His skull is so thick that it takes a while for information to sink in. So, yeah, it's very hard to deal with him. Trump believes other countries trade unfairly and sees tariffs as a tool to make the United States more competitive, the person said. And he doesn't ever explain any specifics. What country is treating us unfairly and in what aspects? Now, Howard Lutnick claims that, they're trading all this stuff, they're exporting all this stuff, but they're not buying in certain countries this, that, and the other thing. When there might be reasons for that. Like in Japan, they don't buy American cars because the Japanese public prefer Japanese cars. You cannot force a country to like your products, especially if they're not native, if they're imports. If they prefer their cars, you can't force them to buy American cars. And that's why we import so many different things, because people like certain products. There are people who prefer Japanese cars over American cars in this country. There are people who prefer Belgian chocolate to Hershey's chocolate. It's nothing against Hershey's. It's nothing against American cars. Some people just prefer certain things. Like, Americans are obsessed with milk chocolate. And they're starting to become more obsessed with white chocolate, but mostly milk chocolate. What if you prefer dark chocolate? There might not be a lot of options. So, yeah, you might want to bring in, you might discover a dark chocolate brand in this country that's superior than what you would get in Europe. That's great. Or you might say, this is okay, but I still prefer this other thing. That's okay too. That is the one thing that I remember. This was early 80s, I think. Maybe late 70s. My grandparents came over from Slovakia. And actually, even when my mom came to this country, when my parents came to this country, and they first went into a supermarket, in the case of my mom, she literally got dizzy because of all the choices that we had. It's great to say made in America, buy made in America, buy made in America. Great. But then don't be surprised that you don't have the choices. Because let's face it, the one thing that we do in this country is we can have out-of-season fruit. And why can we have out-of-season fruit? It's not just because we're a huge country and that, the climate is always favorable in some part of the country. You can also import fruit from countries that can grow it because they're the southern hemisphere, so they are still growing the fruit that you would normally have in summer because it's summer for them. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with being able to have certain fruit and vegetables when you normally couldn't grow them? There's nothing wrong with that. So it's not a zero-sum game. It's not a matter of either we make everything in this country or, you just don't need it. Some people like to have certain fruits and vegetables that grow during a certain season. Nothing wrong with that. So, he's very confident it's going to work for him, the person added, speaking on condition of anonymity. I wouldn't be so sure. And yet, in the run-up to Wednesday's announcement, Trump and his aides were also hearing from GOP lawmakers and outside allies urging an alternative path. One was Larry Kudlow, who hosts a show on Fox Business Network and was a senior economic advisor in Trump's first term. Kudlow told NBC News that he has had ongoing talks with friends in the West Wing about the need to negotiate with other countries before the United States slaps them with tariffs that stand in perpetuity. Describing Trump's move Wednesday as fabulous, Kudlow added, "Deal making is the best thing to do. In the last 48 hours, Trump has gone from non-negotiating to negotiating. It's very clear that Bessent is now the point man on trade. Very clear." Now, the ironic thing is Trump calls himself a consummate deal maker. He wrote Art of the Deal. He knows how to make deals. And he has to be forced to negotiate? He has to be told how to make a deal? I'm sorry, what? I mean, I realize he's full of shit, but still, at least act like it's possible you know how to negotiate. As it stands now, you look like you don't know what the fuck you're doing. Anxious GOP lawmakers also weighed in. Graham said he spoke to Trump at length Tuesday night and told him he had been hearing from car manufacturers who are worried about how the tariffs would affect their business. BMW operates a plant in Graham's home state and is one of the companies he said he has spoken to. Senator John Kennedy, a Republican from Louisiana, not the famous Kennedys, a lot of people voted for him thinking he had any connection to the famous Kennedys. He doesn't have any connection. A lawmaker who was also in touch with the administration said Tuesday that he planned to have lunch with Bessent. On Wednesday, he told NBC News he was also talking to the White House. Kennedy likened Trump to the pit bull who caught the car. Now, he said, the question becomes, what are you going to do with the car? That's basically it, I think. His analogies are very bizarre. So, but yeah, he wants to have all this power and be able to, and force people to kowtow to him. And then when they're in a position where they have to, because they, don't want the global market to crash, they don't want the global economy to crash, he doesn't know what to ask for, because that was never the point. The point was to just crash the economy. After more market losses this week, and with pressure mounting from Republicans on Capitol Hill, Trump began having second thoughts. In his first term, he often viewed the ups and downs of the stock market as a kind of report card on his presidency, celebrating its rise. The downturn has gotten his attention. People were getting a little queasy, he acknowledged Wednesday at an event with NASCAR racing champions. You think? I have said from the very beginning, the only thing that will rein in his nonsense is the stock market. Because that's going to be the only thing he gives even an iota about. Because he has stock in the stock market. He plays the stock market and he has companies that are listed on stock market. So that's the only thing that's going to rein him in. Now, granted, I didn't think about the bonds market and interest rates. That part of the calculation I wasn't thinking of. But I knew that the stock market was going to rein him in eventually. Over the last few days, he began to more seriously consider pausing the additional tariffs he told reporters later in the day in an Oval Office appearance. One prospect that intrigued him was personally negotiating new trade deals with the countries looking to get out from under the tariffs, the senior administration officials said. That makes sense if you think about the fact that Trump likes to put his name on shit. He loves to put his name on shit because he thinks that that's legacy building, and people will come to love him if he has his name on enough shit. So he's even destroying prior agreements because other people's names were on it. Now, how that explains him destroying his own previous agreements with countries, not a clue, but yeah. All right. He'd made up his mind. Sitting with Besant and Lucknow, he crafted the note announcing the 90-day postponement and ending, for the time being, the biggest economic crisis of his young presidency, which is still not over. Because, like I said, the stock market is still down. We wrote it from our hearts, right? Trump said. You have a heart? It was written as something that I think was very positive for the world and for us. And we don't want to hurt countries that don't need to be hurt. And they all want to negotiate. Really? You don't want to hurt countries that don't need to be hurt? Well, maybe you should have thought of that before you slapped on tariffs on every country in the world except for Russia, North Korea, and the poor penguins of the Heard and McDonald Islands. Because what the fuck did they ever do? The day closed with the Dow Jones Industrial Average up nearly 8%, erasing some but not all of the post-Liberation Day losses. Messy as it all may have seemed, his administration insisted that it is all unfolding as planned. Oh, you planned an economic crash. Cool. And actually, we're going to get to that part of the story in a second. You have been watching the greatest economic master strategy from an American president in history, White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller posted Wednesday afternoon. And I can't believe I just managed to read that whole sentence with a straight face. Because what the hell? What economic strategy? Let me crash the global economy and so people will beg me for help? Was that the strategy? Especially when he doesn't know what to ask for? Because the EU offered zero tariffs, which he claimed was the problem, that they were tariffing us too much, which I've said in a previous video, that formula they used is laughable. It's not tariffs, but trade deficit, which are totally different things. So what master strategy is this? And speaking of which, let me tell you about the stock market today. So the stock market today, now remember, yesterday it was up 8%. Okay? The Dow was up 8%. So the Dow is now down 2.5%. I mean, not horrible, but not great. The NASDAQ is down 4.5%. I'm sorry, 4.33%. And the S&P is down 3.5%. So, yeah, not exactly great. Why? Because we are still in a trade war with China. So, and I guess he admires China because after what he did to the country in 2018, they started doing what I guess Trump wants, which is insulating their country more. So if Trump were to tariff them to death, it wouldn't bother them. It wouldn't bother them that much. It will, however, bother us because we have a trade surplus with them. So, not to mention the people who claim that they care so much about the national debt. Who do you think owns most of it? That's right, China. They own most of our debt. So, why are we, in a trade war with them when they could probably destroy us? That's great. So this next article I have is from MSNBC. specifically Rachel Maddow's blog, the Maddow blog. All right. Democrats focus on possible market manipulation following Trump's tariffs pause. Now, this actually also doesn't surprise me that there would be insider trading going on, because, I mean, they're the ones who are causing the crisis, so they don't need to have people tell them, oh, these stocks, you should sell these stocks because they're going to hit rock bottom. I mean, they're already doing it themselves, so they don't need to be told. The president encouraged people to start investing shortly before he made an unexpected move that benefited investors. Awkward questions soon followed. On Wednesday afternoon, in a move that garnered global attention, Donald Trump announced a 90-day pause to much of his agenda on trade tariffs, which, not surprisingly, sent the major Wall Street indexes soaring. But a few hours earlier, the president, who'd publicly insisted that his trade tariffs were here to stay and would never change, had published a related item to his social media platform. This is a great time to buy, he wrote. It came 4 minutes after Trump also wrote, be cool. Everything is going to work out well. Now, granted, anybody who knows anything about the stock market is you buy when it's low and sell high. So that in itself isn't mind-blowing. But that's basically him screaming into the ether that if you buy now, I'm going to make you rich because I'm going to make the stock market go up. So, yeah, that is a bit problematic. It didn't take long before many started connecting those two dots. The president encouraged people to start investing shortly before he made an unexpected move that benefited investors. As NBC News reported, some important questions soon followed. In the wake of President Donald Trump's announcement Wednesday afternoon that he was pausing country-by-country tariffs by 90 days, some experts, as well as critics of the Trump and social media users, are raising questions about a statement he posted earlier in the day that may have indicated the massive sell-off in stocks in recent days was coming to an end. Though no public evidence has emerged that the president was engaged in market manipulation, and the White House has explicitly denied anything untoward, they wouldn't admit to doing anything untoward if their lives depended on it. The circumstances have generated some inevitable concerns. This is a scenario that it could expose the president to accusations that he engaged in market manipulation. Richard Painter, former President George W. Bush's chief ethics lawyer, who now teaches government ethics and security regulation at the University of Minnesota's Law School, told NBC News. Painter added that Trump's online items were a terrible idea. And it shouldn't surprise anyone that he manipulated the market. I mean, a variety of congressional Democrats in the House and Senate had similar reactions. And the morning after the president's move, Senators Adam Schiff of California and Ruben Gallego of Arizona wrote to the Office of Government Ethics demanding an investigation. Time will tell what, if anything, comes of this, though the president's record seems relevant. In 2018, the New York Times published a devastating series of reports about Trump's financial background, including the apparent fact that he became wealthy through alleged instances of outright fraud. No. A fraudster getting rich from fraud? I mean, that's the Trump brand. Why is this a shock? One of the Times reports included this tidbit. During the 1980s, Donald Trump became notorious for leaking word that he was taking positions in stocks, hinting of a possible takeover, and then either selling on the run-up or trying to extract lucrative concessions from the target company to make him go away. It was a form of stock manipulation with an unsavory label, greenmailing. Trump has long denied any wrongdoing. Watch this space. As far as Trump goes, he never admits to wrongdoing, because that would imply that he would think of that he would have any self-awareness. He thinks that everything he does is perfectly fine because he is so narcissistic. He thinks that because he's rich, because he is a Trump, that he should be able to get away with whatever he wants to get away with. I mean, we all know this. So, yeah. All right. So that is the end of that article. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to add to this video. Just that, he intended to make his cronies rich, but like I said, the stock market is still down. And last I checked, the treasury yields are still up. So his little pause isn't working the way he wanted it to. So I don't know if this means he's going to open negotiations, if he's going to open negotiations with China, if he's going to open negotiations with other countries and allow for free trade somewhere. I don't know. That would require rational thought. That would require understanding what's happening around him, having any amount of self-awareness, which he does not possess. So I'm pretty sure, I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure he doesn't even possess object permanence. I would be shocked if, I would not be shocked if it was discovered he does not have object permanence. Wouldn't surprise me one bit. So anyway, that's where we are when it comes to the market so far. So we'll see just how crappier this world is going to get. So with that, I will see you guys in the next video.